Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us here at the African Reform Movement channel, where we discuss everything African reform with an emphasis on Ghana. As always, I'm your host. My name is Uche, and we have Dr. Nii and Udoka with us. He's going to be taking us through Budget 2022. But we had a bit of a discussion beforehand. It's been an interesting development, but we'll get to that later. So if you're joining us here for the very first time, welcome. Dr. Nii has a number of social media platforms, and he's more than happy to engage with you on there. Please check out his links and join him there if you want to. Don't worry if you don't have the time to take all of these down. All of this information is in his description box on his YouTube channel. We encourage you to please subscribe to us on YouTube. Click the notification bell so you're advised of every new posting that we have. Okay? We ask, as always, that you please submit all questions regarding anything Dr. Nii raises during this broadcast live, because otherwise, once the conversation is done, it's done. Dr. Nii is a very busy man, and he won't have the time to come back and check and answer your questions. So please, we ask you to post all questions in real time so that he has the time and space to answer them for you. Okay? Dr. Nii is an author. He's published a number of books. One of the books he's referenced a few times in our conversations has been The Fifth Republic, and that can be purchased at his Book Nook store. There are the details there. But again, if you don't get the information right now, don't worry. All of this is on his YouTube channel under the description box. Dr. Nii also has a website called Sankofa Africa, where he posts a number of his writings on there, so you can engage with him on there as well. Please make use of that. And if anything, you have any questions, please feel free to contact him via his social media platforms if there's any questions that are raised as a result of what you've read on his website. So today's topic is Budget 2022, dubious by every standard. Controversial, is it? Let's see. Dr. Nii, unpack this for us.
All right, thank you very much, Uche. This is a very interesting moment because I've written two or three articles. I think I've written 3 articles on this budget. The last one is why the youth must resist this failed Azaa budget. Azaa in English is dubious. And I released that article, I think, 2 hours before the Parliament of Ghana rejected the budget. So my prophecy as a failed budget has come to pass. It's been rejected. The circumstance of the rejection is very interesting, but let me remind people that the last time a budget was rejected in Ghana was in July 1981. The budget was then presented by Professor George Bene, finance minister for Dr. Hilda Nehman PNP government. And the person from the minority side who counted and realized that the number of MPs on the majority side was 51 and the number of MPs on the minority side at that point in time was 54, and called for a motion to suspend and vote on the budget was no other person than a man called Dr. Jones Ofori-Atta, father of today's finance minister. The finance minister of Ghana, today's father, called for the ballot, which ended in rejecting Liman's budget for 1981-82. And that was the last budget for Liman. The next budget was read by Rawlings government. All right. Everybody must note this. Everybody must know this. That was the last budget of the Liman government. Karma is a bastard, they say. Jones Ofori-Atta caused the rejection of Liman's budget. Today, his son's budget has been rejected. Let's go on. Now today we are going to talk about why this is an Azaa budget. First slide, please. The Azaa 2022 budget. Now, we want to know what actually drove the minister to write such a budget. What drove the minister to write such a budget? The spirit behind the Azaa budget is a Goldman Sachs report which came out days before the budget was delivered. In it, there were 3 key points: debt of 250 billion cedis in 4 years accumulated by the Akufo-Addo government. When they came to power, our total debt from independence, 1957 to 1987, 30 years, was 120 billion. That averages 2 billion cedis a year. Between that time and now, they've accumulated additional 250 billion, and that averages 62.5 billion cedis a year. There's no way a country the size of Ghana, a country with the size of Ghana's economy can sustain that debt. And here is where it's tricky. Most of you, I believe, are Christians, and most of you are quite familiar with scriptures. There's a scripture attributable to Jesus in Luke 16:10, which says that he who is faithful with little, much will be given to him, and will be honest with much. But who is faithful, who is dishonest with little, will also be dishonest with much. Now, here, somebody who has been given 250 billion cedis in loans has been dishonest, has not been faithful. Somehow, he thinks that imposing 7 billion this is the opposite, right? He's been grossly dishonest with much. And now he's telling us that no, I've mismanaged 250 billion, but I need 7 billion to build roads. He can't show us any roads from the 250 billion. He hasn't built any road, he hasn't built any harbor, he hasn't built any university, he hasn't built any secondary school, he hasn't built any township like Nkrumah did with Tema, like Nkrumah did with the Tema Harbor, which is giving us money today. There is nothing that he has done that in the next 25 years can even pay for 1/10 of the debt. 1/10 of the debt is 25 billion. There is nothing this man and his government, what they've done, that can give us 1 billion cedis a year to pay even 1/10 of the loan in 25 years. There's nothing to give us 1 billion a year so that in 25 years, guys, okay, we've paid 25 billion. That is 1/10. So this loan will not be payable. Yet he's taking more loan to tell he's going to use the loans to build roads and that. If you cannot build roads with 250 billion, how do you build roads with 7 billion? And that's why it's dubious. It's not meant for road building. Okay? That's why it is dubious. The money is not to build any road, you know, to do any development. If you cannot do development with 250 billion, you can't do it with 7 billion. That's anti-scriptural. Now, the next thing is this. In the budget, they're saying that their debt to GDP ratio is 78% as of September. Goldman Sachs is saying that their debt to GDP by next year is going to be 81.5, unheard of. We've crossed 80%. When you cross 60%, you become heavily indebted. You've crossed 80%. You are super heavily indebted poor country. It's unheard of. Now, they've put us in this position because for whatever reason, the 250 billion has dissipated. But we are going to pay for the loan. And the thing which actually pushed them to do what they did, the worst of all, is because Goldman Sachs, through IMF, says that we're going to have the widest fiscal deficit of any junk-rated economy. Of all the shitholes, we are going to have the widest fiscal deficit for next year. And fiscal deficit means that your expenditure is bigger than your income. Oh, yeah, for pay. That's fiscal deficit. And the conclusion is that our debt is unsustainable. Our debt is unsustainable. And they are saying that because of our debt unsustainability, Ghana has become the riskiest investment environment for investors. That is frightening. In fact, they say that Ghana is a country that investors will do very well to stay away from. That's the whole country. Ghana is the riskiest country that investors will do very much, do everything possible to stay away from. Now, slide 2.
Before we go on to that, Dr. Nii, could you clarify what the word Azaa means?
Azaa means dubious. Dubious.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Dubious, yeah. Azaa means dubious.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. You see, so now the reason for this budget is to try and placate IMF, International Capital Market, that it's not too bad, we can manage it. That's the whole idea, and you see why. Now, last year budget, the big tickets, revenue was 70.3 billion, expenditure was 107.9 billion, deficit was 37.6. What it means is that we overspent our revenue by 37.6. Okay, yeah, 37.6. Now, in this 37.6 figure, nobody could account for 12 billion. Okay, the Auditor General could not account for 12 billion of government expenditure. It's gone. We don't know. Nobody's being prosecuted. Now, deficit over revenue is 53.5%. What it means is that we overspent our revenue by 53. We are the amount of money we spent was more than half our revenue. The amount of money we overspent was more than half. It's 53.5% of our revenue. Goldman Sachs says that all these figures will be worse in 2022. All what are written here, they will be worse in 2022. Then government has to respond. The government response is the budget that was delivered, full of lies. Because government will have to make sure that he had to calm the nerves in the international capital market, because even this is so bad, and if the one coming is worse, then Ghana will be in front. So they had to lie. Next slide. Government response in 2022. So now, government says that it's going to generate 100.5 billion cedis. All right. And they are going to spend 135.6 billion. So the deficit is 35.1 billion. What does this mean? Next slide, please. All right. So deficit in 2021 was 37.6 billion. Deficit in 2022 is projected to be 35.1 billion. So it means that the deficit in 2021 was more than the projected deficit for 2022. What it means is that we are raising our deficit by 6.6%. So they are telling the international community that no, we are not going to have the widest fiscal deficit. The deficit for this coming year will be better than the deficit for the previous year. So calm down, guys. Calm down. We are doing well. Things are under control. Calm down. The question is, what does this mean? Next slide, please. Okay. It means that for them to get the 6.6 decrease in fiscal, 6.6% decrease in fiscal deficit, certain things must move. So they decide that they're going to fudge the revenue. They're going to fake the revenue. And they decide that they're going to increase revenue from 70.3 to 100.5. In effect, in 1 year, we're going to increase our revenue by 43%. Now, Dr. Jerry Monfort, a well-renowned financial, economic, and strategy consultant, said that is a world record. It's like you telling you that I'm going to increase your salary at work by 43% from 1 year to the next. It doesn't happen. The nature of competition, demand, and so many things does not allow that massive expansion of revenue in 1 single year. 43% never happens. So they say that's a lie. In fact, they say that is voodoo economic theory that can produce such a thing. That it's not me saying it. All right, they say it's an absurdity. You need please pure magic. Anyway, now where does this increase come from? They are telling us that direct tax will increase by 9.5 billion. Meanwhile, the same minister is saying that people are not paying their income tax. Now, income tax probably is 90% or so of direct tax. So if we're not paying their direct tax, how is the direct tax going to increase by 9.5 billion? That is by 33% over last year's money. Of course, nobody can write any figures. Anyway, but those who know it, like Dr. Jeremiah says, any good economists can detect easily the inaccuracies and the untruthfulness of these projections. Now, this is the person talking at the highest level of highest level in the international capital market. I don't think he's a Ghanaian from his English, but it looks like he's very close to Ghana because he knows a lot about Ghana. He was going to actually deliver something on security and risk in Ghana or something very soon. Anyway, then they are saying that so we're going to increase direct tax by 33%, by 9.5 billion. We're going to increase import duty by 34%, that's by 2.3 billion. Now, what they don't understand is that duties collected at the port, they are input taxes, okay? They are input into production because the things that come to the port are things that we use to produce. So if you increase tax there, you're increasing what? Cost of production. And that will roll over to the consumer. For the producer to maintain his margin, his profit margin, will have to pass on the duty to the consumer. You are making cost of living very high. You are actually literally killing people. Okay? But those dimwits don't understand. They are so desperate to pacify IMF and international capital market. So they say we're going to increase it by 2.3, by 34%. Increase import duty. One strike, 34%. Anything to not have no effect on the economy. 34% increase in import duties once. And of course, 100% increase in Momo tax. This tax never existed. And now we are going to get 7 billion from this tax. So that is 100%. Introduction of a new tax, that's 100% from 0 to 100%, 7 billion.
But if the tax never existed, what 7 billion from where? How?
That's the Momo, that's the tax they're going to charge for money transfers. If you transfer money to somebody on your mobile phone,
right?
We call it mobile money transfers and stuff like that. You pay 1.75 on the amount you are transferring.
Okay.
So if you transfer $100, 100 cedis, you pay 1.75 cedis to them. Okay. And the accumulation of that, calculate based on whatever amount was transferred last year, they are assuming that they're going to get 7 billion. And they say this money is going to be used for road. And that's what I'm saying, that if you have been unfaithful with March, 150 billion, you cannot tell them that you're going to be faithful with 7 billion. Exactly. What can 7 billion do? Which 150 billion couldn't do?
Exactly.
So the money is not for that. The money is to plug the fiscal hole so that we look okay, not too bad before the world. But the world is not stupid. We behave like Nancy. You know, we say something and then we believe it in our head and we think everybody believes. We think everybody is a fool. And when you add all these arbitrary taxes, you get 18.8 billion. All these fake taxes. When you add all them, you get 18.8 billion. Now, when you take this 18.8 billion to their projected revenue of 100.5, you get 81.7 billion. Okay. So the actual realizable tax that you can get for next year without these useless taxes is 81.7 billion, which is about 15% of last year's revenue, which is very believable. Very believable. 15% increase on last year's income is very believable. 43% on last year's income doesn't happen. That's voodoo economic theory. It doesn't happen. All right. But what does that mean? Next slide, please. The real budget. This is what it means. The real revenue is supposed to be, without these foolish taxes, supposed to be 81.7 billion. Expenditure is 135.6 billion. So the real deficit is supposed to be 53.9, almost 54 billion, and not the 35.1 or the 35 billion. Okay? The real deficit. And this is what the World Bank, this is what the IMF predicted, that you are going to have the widest fiscal deficit of any what do you call those jokers? Any junk rated economy. You know, it's going to have the widest possible. I mean, you're going to have almost 54 billion, and this 54 billion over. This is 4 billion over our revenue is 66%. So we're actually going to overspend 2/3 of our revenue as over. So you have 100 cedis and you decide you're going to spend 166 cedis. 2/3. How are you going to pay it? So they have to bring it down and make it as if you have 100 and you are spending 135, so that the revenue is 35 and not actually 66. 2/3. That's the real budget. Because they are determined not to reduce expenditure. They want to keep the expenditure at that same level or even worse than last year because of the way they spend our money. As we are speaking now, our president is going to Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, and already the hotel bills alone, just the hotel bills alone, is $500,000. Yeah.
How?
It's almost $75,000.
What?
As we are speaking, they are going to. As we are speaking right now, today, the letter that came out from the Parliamentary Service Department says that the speaker is going for medical checkup in Dubai, and he's going with 4 or 5 people of his family and offices, whatever, at our expense, and he's going to be there to the 14th of December. Medical review. I can do telehealth for him free.
Wow.
I mean, it's a joke. But they are determined to keep the expenditure at 185, so they have to lie about revenue. And they have to force people to pay for their lifestyle. That's what they are dealing with here. Now,
wow.
When you look at the real budget and you calculate the change in deficit, it's not the decrease in deficit by 6.6% as the minister presented, but it's actually an increase in deficit by 43.4%. It has never happened, not in Libya, not in Somalia, not in any war torn country, that from one year to the other, your budget deficit increases by 43.4%. And this is what the IMF said: we're going to have the widest fiscal deficit of any junk-rated country, of any joker shithole country. This is what it means. This is the real budget. All right, next slide.
Are these acts not criminal?
Well, it depends on which country you are, because in Australia, there is no accountant general. Auditor General would audit the government and will find 12 billion missing, and people will not go to jail. You know that can't happen in England. It's just impossible. So I don't know what is criminal and what's not criminal in Ghana, because mind you, you're talking of a junk-created economy, all right? And everything is junk.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, what would I have done? In the first place, I'd have cut expenditure by 1/3. That would bring to about 90 billion. Because if we could do without 12 billion, which could not be found, which could not be traced, then it's very easy that we can deal with 12 billion in this start. Because in last years that we can't find 12 billion where it went, and the country didn't collapse. So we can quite do less 12 billion here. and that will bring the expenditure right away to 123. And I can tell you that if 12 billion could not be found, then 24 billion at least was wasted. We know it. They came to Glasgow with 337 people and they spent there more than 2 weeks there. At whose cost? Australia came there with 98 people and they left after 2 days. Okay, so we know where the money goes. We know where the money goes. 334, Australia is world number 1 producer of coal, world number 1 liquefied nitrogen, liquefied natural gas, world number 1 iron ore. Australia, 35% of all coal in the export in the world came from Australia. 28% of all LNG comes from Australia. And now they are going to start new, I think 16 billion LNG, liquefied natural gas in Western Australia. I sent it to you. I sent the article to you. When they asked the CEO, so what are you going to do about the gas? He said, we'll plant trees and we'll sequestrate carbon dioxide. Case closed. Let's move on. They want the money. Now, this is going to add another 7 to 8% of Australian exports. So Australia is going to export about 36% of LNG, liquefied natural gas, in the whole world. They were there for 2 days with only 98 people who actually came from Rome after attending the G20 summit. Yeah, they were there for 2 days, 98 people. But this is the greatest polluter of the world. And Ghana went there with 337 people and they stayed there for about 2 weeks doing absolutely nothing. So we know where all these monies go. We know where they go. I'm gonna cut it by 90%. I'll cut government. See, but God, they say something. Judgment begins from the house of God. Judgment begins from the house of power. If you want to bring judgment and skin people alive, you got to start from house of power. I'll cut the executive. I'll cut everything, and I can reduce this expenditure by a third. That brings it to 90 billion. That's what I will do, and it's very doable because I know that. I know the waste in Ghana. Then I'll increase revenue to a believable 15%, which is about 81 billion. Okay, so to about 81 billion, not to 100 billion. I'll lift it from 15% from 70.3 to 81, 15%, which is believable. Now, this is very conservative because if I decide, from what the government said, if I decide that I was going to cut the Momo tax, the tax on mobile money and import duty, if I decide to take those two out alone, the remaining figure will be 91.2%. Okay, but I even want to be very modest, so I'm saying 81 instead of 91. Now you realize that if I can cut the expenditure by a third to 90 billion, and I take out only Momo and import duty, then our revenue becomes 91 billion. Even by just doing this, our revenue becomes more than our expenditure. We don't need to go to anybody for money. We don't need to go to anybody to go and beg for it, because just by take the Momo out, take the import duty out, our revenue comes to 91.2 billion, which is more than 90 billion if I'm able to cut our expenditure by a third. And that is easy, because starting from the 12 billion, which is not there, that's almost 10%. Okay, 12 billion, which also accounts for last year, is embedded here. Okay, and this is Ghana for you. Even if you ask your own brother to go and buy something for you, he will inflate the price for you. Your own brother. It starts from this. It starts from the day they were born. They will inflate everything right into government. And the 135.6 we see there is inflated budgets. More than 1/3 will be wasted or stolen. It's not a real budget. No way. Where are the roads? What do we have to show for this huge amount of money? So just by cutting the expenditure they have projected by a third, and just modestly increasing our revenue, will be within 10 billion deficit, not the 35 billion. That is very conservative. If what they have said is correct, and we try to take just the MOMO tax and the import duty tax, I'm telling you, we'll earn 91 billion and we will get surplus. We'll get budget surplus of 1 billion at the end of the year. If we can cut the expenditure by 1/3, which is so easy, and we all know it. Now, if we even decide that, okay, 91 is too much, just 81, 15%, 81, which we all believe, which is all believable, then the change in deficit from that of last year is going to be 71.6 reduction in our deficit. 71.6% reduction in our deficit. What it means is that nobody in the world will say we are lying, because the facts are there. We've cut our expenditure. But in order that they spend the way they want to spend, they have to come and tax you to allow or to let the budget look not too bad. But the word is not stupid. What's the word's reaction? Let's see the next slide. The word catch the Azaa. Of course, yes. They are not stupid. They are not stupid. They've been doing this forever. They know that they have all the graphs. They know what is believable and what is magical. They call it absurd. They call it pure magic. They say it's inaccurate and untruthful. All these projections are just dubious. In fact, they say Ghana is in trouble as the international market deem the budget as dubious. And the problem is that our credibility is at stake. Serious credibility is going to lead toward financial crisis, because you know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
The world, what the Ghana court system cannot do, the world financial market, the world capital market will do. Okay, they are not going to put their money into basket with holes that the money will drain. Because giving more money to Ghana is like in the salary of a drunkard or a gambler. He will drink more and he will gamble more. Totally irresponsible beast. They collect the money and they spend the money the way they like. And then either they go and beg for more and build up debt for us, or they'll increase tax to actually fund their way of life. And that's where the crisis will come. Because, the financial market said, no, you're not credit worthy. Because they have said that we are the richest country that investors will do very well to stay away from. And now they found out you're a liar too. They say untruthful, inaccurate, pure magic, absurd. The figures we've given to the international market are very different from the figures that IMF gave them, and they believe in IMF because we are liars. They know we've collected 250 billion in 4 years, but nothing to show. We have no capacity to pay even 1/10 back. So we believe such a liar. And you know what's going to happen, right? They will not give any loan. The sovereign bond market is closed. The sovereign bond market is closed. So government will be forced to do two things. Either increase taxes. If they dare, the country will become ungovernable. The next option is to print more money. Which is the easier option? The Americans call it quantitative easing. That's the easier option. But you know the inflation, the inflationary impact of such a thing, and the effect on the exchange rate. It will crash. It will crash. And so when I say that the rejection by Parliament of the budget is a bad omen, because the last time it happened, that was the last budget presented by that government. I'm not joking. We are near an economic cataclysm.
So this particular budget was rejected. So what are the options now?
The government will have to present another budget.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the timely, whether 2 weeks or I'm not sure, but the government will have to present another budget.
Okay.
Yeah. And in this budget, if they are wise, they can say, look, we're going to cut government spending.
Right.
And then, okay, 12 billion could not be accounted for, and the 12 billion is more than the Momo tax of 7 billion and the import duty tax of 2.3 billion. So that's 9.3 billion. Look, we're not going to burden people with the money that we could not locate. So we scrap these laws. We're going to cut our expenditure to 100 billion. And then our revenue is about 80 billion. And then we have 20 billion deficit. And that is manageable by all standards.
Realistically, do you think that's what's going to come out of this next presented budget?
Well, if there is one single human being among them with any gray matter in his head, that's what they would do. Yeah.
But
because
they presented a budget that you said completely ridiculous prior. That's just now been rejected. So it's not beyond the realms of credibility. They'll produce something that's equally as ridiculous.
They'll have to decide whether they want to maintain their level of expenditure or they want to revise it. Because they can easily revise. I mean, we have embassies and funny things in Serbia and other joke places. Like I told you the last time, Australia, 2 trillion economy, has only 4 embassies in Africa. West Africa in Ghana, East Africa in Kenya, North Africa in Egypt, Southern Africa in South Africa. Case closed. We can do the same and reduce costs. We can decide that we're closing all regional, no regional ministers again in Ghana. The mayor of Accra will act as regional minister of Greater Accra. The mayor of Kumasi will act as regional minister for Ashanti region. And the mayor of Tamale will act as regional minister for. We cut costs in all those areas. We reduce presidential staff. So many things we can do.
Okay.
So many things we can do that will bring the expenditure down easily. I mean, we couldn't find 12 billion. We couldn't find 12 billion. So we overspent by 12 billion last time. We couldn't find. So easily, it's so easy. We know they are just thieves. Like I'm telling you, Uche, it's not a government problem, it's a cultural problem. Okay. If I ask somebody to go and do something for me today, if it's 10 cities, the best going to tell me is 12 cities. That's the way we do things. We always inflate. This government, a minister once said she was making a website for her ministry, and the website was 800,000 cities. Websites can be done for 800 cities. Look at the margin. Look at the margin. Almost 1 million for a website. When she was caught, it was a mistake. She added zeros that she shouldn't add. Can you imagine? And she's selling government. So the budget there is overinflated, the expenditure. That's where the problem is. That's all. It's a fake budget. It's an Azaa budget, 100%, by every standard. When you look, I don't want to be technical because what I know, I'm not an economist. When you look at the reduction of debt to GDP for the next 3 years, it's laughable. Those ones, it's laughable. It doesn't even happen in Australia. Not even in the US. It's laughable. They were talking of GDP debt to GDP being reduced between 4 to 5 percentage points every year. Are you crazy or what? What do you see? Which voodoo economics is this? It doesn't. You're able to reduce your debt by 2%, debt to GDP by 2% per year is a huge job. But we know they are lies. We know they are Taliban. We know they are Talibanized criminals. They are economic terrorists, these people. And what's going to happen is that the international capital market will close down on them. They make an attempt to increase taxes, there will be a revolution in the land. They will meet resistance. They know that. They will meet resistance. Of course, they will go to the Bank of Ghana to print more money. The cedi value will fall, and because that's what they used to criticize the previous government. They used to flash the market. They used to flash the foreign estate market with $20 million every week from the government banker. When they get a cocoa, that's what they used to do to cushion the city. The city is a false rate. Really, it's a joke. They cushion you with money. Yeah. So that the demand and supply. Okay, so that they increase the supply of dollars to reduce the pressure on the city. 20 million cedis every week. Calculate for 52 weeks.
Yeah.
50 times 20 is what? $1 billion is what they pump into the market every year to keep the city afloat. It's a complete joke. It's a junk-rated economy, my dear. They don't know what they are doing because they want to overspend. Margaret Thatcher said that what I do with my economy is not from any serious economic theory I've learned, but from the things that myself and millions of us were brought up in home. In home. Honest day work and honest day pay, live within your means, put an egg by for the rainy season, and help the police. Simple as that. We want to turn economics on its head. Honest day work, honest day pay. Live within your means. Live within your means. Live within your means. With all this expenditure, they are spending 4% of GDP on education. UNESCO recommends minimum of 6%. With all this expenditure, so where's the money going? They are spending 2.5% on health. In Australia, we spend 10% of GDP on health. They are spending 2.5%, but people don't know. And the funny opposition also doesn't know to even bring out this point to Ghanaians that with all this expenditure, only 4% is going to education. Only 2.5% is going to health. So where is the money going? This is just crazy. Cuba under Fidel Castro spent between 10 to 12% of GDP on education for 50 years. No wonder they are the only country that can export doctors and teachers, nurses, because you cannot sow chili, you cannot sow pepper and reap tomatoes. They did it. UNESCO uses Cuba as the gold standard. It spent twice the limit of the UNESCO to educate its people. Today, you know what? Unemployment in Cuba is 3%. Unemployment in Cuba is 3%. General fertility is 1.6. Because the more women go to school, the less students breed like pigs. Ghana, general fertility is 4. We are breeding like pigs. In 1959, when Castro came, Ghana and Cuba was 7 million people. Ghana was about 6 million. Today, Cuba is 11.2 million. We are 31. Education makes a difference. We can't feed ourselves, and we are breeding. 3% unemployed, so they don't have so much time on the hand to have sex 24/7. Okay, 3% unemployed, 100% literacy, men and women, because they spend the money there. 10 to 12% of GDP for education. Ghana, with all this a big expenditure that we cannot even handle, is only 4%. 4%. UNESCO is saying minimum of 6%. We are 4%. Look, are we serious at all? All right. Don't know what to say, but I'm getting angry.
So let me just ask you a question. If they're not able to agree on a particular budget by the deadline or whatever, what will now happen? If let's just say that this next budget gets rejected and a third gets rejected, I don't know if that's ever happened before, but what will happen if a suitable budget isn't presented?
It means that the politicians cannot manage the economy, so people have to get their power back. It's as simple as that. That's what I would advocate.
And when you say people have to get their power back, how will they do that? What do you mean?
Well, then when the time comes, we'll see. Because if you vote people into power and they can't agree on the way forward for the country, then what's the point? Why pay them if they can't do anything? The fundamental principle, they can't do it. So you take your power back. Whichever means, I don't know. But the people will determine what they want to do. Because this is crazy.
Okay, let me just quickly jump in something. There's no questions, just comments here. Regarding the government, they have done little to nothing with the huge debt they incurred since being in government. We have nothing to show for it.
Yes. If you are faithful with little, we know that according to the universal word of truth, Jesus Christ, if you are faithful with little, Luke 16:10, if you are faithful with little, you'll be faithful with much. If you are dishonest with little, you'll be dishonest with much. And we have people here who have been dishonest with much. So how do you give them little?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yes, I like this quote. Capital is a cow. It runs away from trouble. And that's what's going to happen. That's going to bring the financial crisis, because capital is a coward. It's not going to come where there is trouble, where he knows that it may not be paid back. And then when the capital is not coming, because we depend heavily on sovereign bonds and things for project finance and all those things. And they saw their sovereign bonds, the project has not been financed, the project has not been built. We don't know. They know that we can't pay the 250 billion. You can't even pay 10% of it. How are you going to pay 25 billion? Where is the source of the money? Where is it going to come from? What have they done to say that this will generate money to pay off this? None.
Yeah. Hubert Beatty says the CD dollar rate should never be used for politics. I have said it many times, but the CD will never catch up with the dollar. Politicians are capitalizing on the ignorance of Ghanaians.
Yes, that's what they do all the time, because both parties don't know what to do. You see, I don't believe that what I'm saying, people in NDC, nobody in NDC knows what I'm saying. I don't believe that. I'm sure some people know. But they can't say it because they have done the same thing before. And because they don't know the solution, when they come, they will do the same thing. So they can't actually criticize structural issues. I believe that people there who know, and I believe that people in the NPP government today who know what I'm saying, but they can't say because that's the only way they know how to do things. I mean, how can a minister say that, we are not getting enough income tax, and the only way out is to put taxes here for indirect tax? Where did you hear that from? Which textbook do you read that from? They don't know. And so that's the only thing they will do. But we know how to do differently. We know how to create wealth. Because it's all about wealth creation. Tax is a proportion of the wealth in your hands. So if you have not created any wealth, you cannot tax the person. If you sell bread, or you make bread and you are a bakery, and you make 400 cedis profit a month, and for that reason, you can't pay tax, or you're not even on the tax register or whatever. And I come to you that, look, I can help you modernize your business, that you can get 1,000 cedis a month. But from these 1,000 cedis, you give me 20% as your small business tax. That will leave you with 800, which is twice what you were getting before without my help. Any normal person will agree, because you have helped the person to create wealth. So the person will say, well, if I give the 20%, I know that you're going to help my sister too, and my sister too, and my brother too. And then we'll all be wealthier than we were before. So I'm willing to pay. That's one thing that increases compliance. The other thing is that I know what you're going to use this money to do, so I'm quite happy to pay. But when you have a situation where people don't see the loans you have collected, what you have used your loans are collected for, and people don't see what you use their taxes for, they will resist.
Yeah, it's true.
Especially when you are not increasing their wealth.
As they should, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But we know how to.
Sorry, there's another one from Lobby Collins. Ghanaians, especially the youth, are ignorant about what goes on in governance. Hence, they're not angry enough to deal ruthlessly with our leaders.
Perfect. 100%. Thank you, God. That's the problem. See, the issue is not even absolute ignorance. The issue is partisanship. Because it's selective ignorance. Because when NDC was in power, the youth of NPP was quite vociferous about what NDC should have done. So they have an idea of what is right and what is wrong. Now that they are in power, they are defending the things that they criticize the NDC government for. So there's a bit of ignorance, but it's quite selective. It's grossly partisan. And at the end of the day, the youth, like Esau, they are selling their birthright and their future. That's what they must know. You see, you can't be like Kwekwa Nancy forever. You don't know who is Kwekwa Nancy, but I'll tell you later. Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody else knows. Yeah, he said Kwekwa Nancy is a mythical Ghanaian figure who believes he's the smartest person on earth. Always ends up in trouble.
Okay.
He always wins the first battle. He always loses the final war.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
and that's the mentality, you know. He thinks he's the fastest person on earth. You know.
Okay. Hubert says, any normal literate knows that the budget is weak and inconsistent. This is not politics. Good men must not be silent anymore.
Thank you very much, Hubert. What you are saying is very, Dr. Jerry Mumford said that any good economists can detect the inaccuracy and untruthfulness of the projections. Any good. I mean, you know what? I wrote my first article. I said, Ken Oula is Mr. Okay, Mr. Ken Oforiata Adain. Why? What's the problem? Not because I read the 348 pages you submitted. I just saw 2 snippets. Somebody sent to us, this is a lie. It doesn't hold. 2 snippets. You don't need to read. You don't need to. This is a complete joke. I mean, I don't even know how to start it because I'm not an economist. I can't even pretend to. When I couldn't have done economics, my head died. But even me, I could understand it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just ridiculous. I'm telling you, if they decide that they're going to cut their expenditure by 30%, there'll be no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where they still, because they overinflated the budget, like we overinflate everything. Everything. As a Ghanaian or a Nigerian to go do something for you, and we come and give you 2 receipts, one from him and one from the original people. That's what they do. It's cultural.
It is. It's very cultural. Yeah, we get that kind of thing all the time, unfortunately. Shika says, good description of Kwaku Anansi. I would add he thinks he's the smartest and everyone else is a fool who he tries to cheat.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you know, for him, nah. But so in always he wins the first, he wins the first battle, you know, but he always loses the last war because everybody catches himself. He's in trouble.
Oh, yeah,
that's the way we behave. You know,
yeah.
the mindset is so much of Kwekwa Nancy that you sit down and you think about something and think nobody can detect the license. So, all right, I believe it, so everybody will believe it. Let me go and tell them. But the world, actually, they're not under the spell. The international capital, they are not under the spell of Kwekwa Nancy. So they can see, they say, this is absurd. It's pure magic. The projections you have made there. And they're saying that, in fact, they even told Parliament, I told Parliament that kill the decoy, kill the real McCoy. Okay? Don't focus too much on the Momo tax. Because that's on the real McCoy. You get the whole budget. He advised them that they shouldn't worry about the Momo tax. They should just say, look, the whole budget is useless. So why focus on one item in a useless budget?
True. Scrap all of it. Yeah, it's true.
I don't even know how they sleep. Whether they sleep with their head on their pillow and their legs in the air, or I don't know how they sleep. Because how can you sit up, sleep, and think that people will accept this? I know people are making much noise about the Momo, because that directly impacts them. But the budget itself, I mean, I haven't read the budget. A friend of mine from PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the big accounting firms, sent me, he does that every year, sent me their commentary, 64 pages of their commentary of the budget. And you know, they are professionals, they are not politicians. So instead of saying it's fraudulent, instead of saying it's absurd, they also is very ambitious. Okay. You know, those are the words very ambitious to think that you can increase the direct tax by 33%. Well, but let's hope that they put the correct system in place to be able to have an effective collection of revenue. That's what, but I know it's bullshit. All right. And they'll use those words. Is like, which other word? Oh, this is a world beater, you know, this is a world beater. If you can increase the general revenue by 43%, that's extraordinary. But I think the system is under pressure to do something extraordinary Ghana is celebrating. So they do put in that there for the government to know that, okay, we know what you are doing. Yeah, say we also say. All right, we want to know it because you are our biggest client in the country. But those who are not your clients, those who you are not their client, they will hit you hard. You are a liar.
Oh. Well, there is no questions. It's just comments.
What's the last slide? Actually.
Oh, I have to get that again. Just been 1 second. Okay, the last slide was, did the world catch the Azaa?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I get to that. Okay, yeah. They did catch the Azaa. They are not stupid. They are not under the spell of Nancy, so they will catch it easily. Yeah. All right. So I'm thinking of what to do next week. It will depend on what goes on in the week, because it's still quite February,
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But I just wish my country well.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Ghana, and then I hope that somehow the government will realize their folly.
Yes.
They have to come in. They have to come to the Ghanaians. They have to be brought to Parliament to come and explain where the 250 billion has gone and how to put in systems to make sure that we reduce our expenditure and moderately and systematically increase our revenue. Okay, so that we will believe us, because we cannot put our sovereignty on the scale because of some tags of some economic terrorists. All right, we've got to call them who they are. But at the same time, they are in government at this point in time, so we have to encourage them to do the right thing. That's all I can do. If they misbehave and people say that we have had enough, we want to take our power back, well, we'll take it from there too. Because that's a real possibility, the way things are going. We are near an Armageddon.
Well, I hope that as they're reflecting on what to put in the next offering for the budget, that they do take these things in mind, that somebody, at least 1 or 2 people, really stop and focus on what actually needs to be done and how it actually does need to be written in order for the country's fortune to start turning around. I really do hope at least one person in there, that there'll be a Joseph in there who can foresee these things and knows how to help structure a proper budget. I really do hope so. I really hope so.
I hope so too. I hope so too. I mean, I can't. It doesn't matter what I want to do in Ghana or for Ghana. It's always easier for the person before you to leave. I mean, it's always better for the person before you to leave a credible country.
Yeah.
Okay, to leave a country that can be saved. It's better to the person to get 5 out of 10 than negative 2 out of 10. So for me, whatever I know, whatever I can, I don't say these things. I say these things more to direct them, to help them come to their senses. Because whatever they will do in power, I'll do better. So I'm not worried about what they do. Whatever they will do, their total capacity, all of them put together, whatever they will do, I will do better and my team. So I'm not worried by giving them advice as to how they can help our country. Whatever they do. Because fundamentally, the difference between Maradona and Sam Yeboah. You know what I'm saying? The difference between, there's always a difference. So I'm not worried about that at all. I'm not one of those guys who say, no, I'm keeping, they'll plagiarize. They do that anyway. I'm not worried about that. Let them plagiarize and let that help Ghana, because by the time they'll come out with one plagiarism, I've got 2 more ahead. So I'm honestly not worried about that. Okay. I just want them to get a country right, because if it doesn't get right, the overwhelming evidence globally in human history is that people will take over. Nothing will stop anybody. We don't want that.
No.
We want to move forward properly, because we have the people who can do it for the name, for the sake of Ghana and for the sake of God.
Yes. Yeah.
Manjava.
Yeah. Dr. Nii, thank you. Thank you, everybody who joined us today. Again, I want to really encourage some of you, and I could hear Dr. Nii's phone going. Please send your questions in on real time. Honestly, we'd love to hear from you. Just please be a part of the conversation. Just send your questions in and we'll read them out. Dr. Nii will answer them. But thank you for those of you who did submit your question or your statements rather, much appreciated. Thank you for those of you who joined us live. We really appreciate it as well. And we will see you again next week, Saturday, 11 a.m. Ghana time, 11 a.m. UK time. So until then, have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.